I backed this project back in 2013 for Star Citizen. I always thought that Squadron 42 was the annoying little brother. It would be fun when it was released, but ultimately it would just bring in more money for the thing I really wanted, the main dish, Star Citizen. But I think I might have been wrong. There is a chance that Squadron actually becomes, on some levels, the bigger deal. CIG have given me another ship to give away, so keep watching to the end if you want to win an A1 with the game package. So, CIG have dropped this huge 26-minute video with in-game footage from Squadron 42, and to say it looks good is a huge understatement. First, let's go through some of the pros from what we saw, and then some of the concerns, because there are some potential issues. The pros. Visually, is this up there with the best looking games around? I think so. There are plenty of games that look good, but do any of them look much better than this? The characters look amazing. Hiring all those famous actors looks like it will actually pay off. Who doesn't want to go on a space adventure with Luke Skywalker and Gimli? Those locations also look incredible. A large variety of places, all very atmospheric and graphically absolutely top notch. I was pretty shocked by what we saw, and this location, the perspective, it was crazy. The camera work is incredibly cinematic. The ability to blend in and out cinematics is so good, and we've got some nice little camera movements, kind of similar to Battlestar Galactica and Firefly, and at points the whole experience looks really film-like. The FPS combat actually looks significantly better than what we have now in Star Citizen. What we currently have is very janky, animations are pretty rough, and it just doesn't really feel like a proper FPS experience. But the changes that CIG have shown at this CitizenCon look like a massive step forwards and will hugely appeal to the FPS crowd. This was one of my concerns, FPS combat. I was worried at how it would end up feeling, but I feel a lot more confident based on what they've shown. And just in general, the whole on-foot experience looks great. Button pushes, puzzles, interactivity, set pieces, physics. It does look really fun. Another pro is that the lighting will probably get quite a lot better. CIG are currently reworking their lighting system. They showed that at CitizenCon, but what they showed was ray-traced global illumination. And so I would expect these scenes that we're seeing in Squadron, they already look good, but with ray tracing, global illumination, it should look even better. Another pro is that everything we're seeing is in-engine, and this is quite hard to actually get your head around when you see the trailer. I'm pretty sure none of this was faked. They weren't cutscenes, they weren't CG trailers. Everything was in-game using in-game assets. You see it, you can fly to it. That giant ship is fully modelled out, inside and out. The planet, just seamlessly fly down to it and land. Get out of your ship, get on with your mission. And having followed Star Citizen for 10 years, it's easy to forget that none of this is normal. It takes something like Starfield to come along with its loading screens behind, or it felt like almost every door, to remind you that what CIG is doing is actually pretty special. So, lots of incredible things to get hyped up about. What about the concerns? Space combat didn't look great in the trailer to me, but it did look like it had been recorded using a mouse and keyboard. It's hard to know how much space combat will be in the game, but I think we have to assume that it's the foundation of the game. Space combat has always been quite hard for CIG to nail down. Let's hope that the master mode stuff that they've been working on actually works. They seem confident, but for me, this is still one of the question marks left for Squadron. I personally found the space flight experience in Starfield pretty lacking. It's obviously much more casual than this, but it did highlight for me how important the feel of space combat is in a space game. And really, gameplay overall is still a concern with this whole project. CIG are yet to completely prove that they can create fun, engaging gameplay in Star Citizen. There are signs that they know what they're doing, but the persistent universe is pretty shallow right now. The good news for Squadron is that really CIG only have to focus on ship combat and FPS combat and gameplay. And even if they're only just okay, it looks like the visuals and the story could make this a pretty good game on their own. Mass Effect was amazing despite some relatively clunky gameplay. Another concern, especially for me, is that performance does look pretty iffy in parts. There are some low frames on show in some of the footage. Now, one of the hopes has been that once you remove other players, there's no multiplayer going on. Hopefully the engine, it would all just be fine and your CPU wouldn't be being completely hammered. But it was probably never going to be that simple. I still think we're going to need a pretty significantly fast CPU to make this single player game run really well. But don't worry, I'll be testing as much hardware as possible to make sure we can find what we really need to make this game run well. And also, CIG are going to optimize this. This is not now the final form. We are beginning the polishing phase and optimization. So, to the original question, were we all wrong about Squadron 42? Is this going to be more significant than Star Citizen? Well, I think maybe. Let me explain. Firstly, not everyone is into MMOs. I love the dream of Star Citizen. I've been pretty much obsessed with it for 10 years, but ultimately it's a niche game. Single player games are very popular. From this year, we've obviously had Starfield, but Zelda, Hogwarts, there's loads more, and single player games really sell well. But based on what we've seen, I think Squadron 42 could have mass appeal. People love cutting edge graphics, probably too much, but anything that looks as good as this will get attention. It could tap into the Call of Duty player base. In some ways, it does look like a spiritual successor to the Mass Effect games. Starfield has flown off the shelves, and I can't see why fans of that game wouldn't want to try this out. The game's reach could be absolutely massive in a way that Star Citizen itself will probably never match. There's the question as well of consoles. Will this come into console? Well, CIG have always talked about this being a PC game, and I'm pretty convinced it will launch on PC first. But I also think it will come to console as quickly as they can because, again, the reach, the sales on console, it's another level. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether the current gen consoles can cope with this. Maybe we'll have to scale back the graphics significantly to get it running, but I would be shocked if this doesn't end up on console eventually. And then the release date. CIG didn't give us one for once. But like most big game releases, I imagine they'll target September or October in order to capitalise on what our American friends call the holiday season. I doubt very much that they'll be ready for 2024, so my best guess at this stage is October 2025. But this is CIG, so ultimately no one, including them, really know. If this game succeeds, it's going to ask some serious questions of the gaming industry. Other publishers will have to question whether they should be attempting these ambitious, decade-long super projects. Will consumers continue to accept rehashed gameplay from the latest version of COD or Assassin's Creed? I mean, sadly, they probably will, and they probably have to. Most publishers are going to be unwilling to take the risks that CIG have taken to make something like this happen. But if it is successful, I think we'll see a very rapid turnaround from gaming journalists, or maybe journalists is too generous. Those people who write articles dismissing Star Citizen and Squadron 42 without even playing them, well, they might actually have to play the game to form an opinion. There are a lot of possibilities from this point onwards. There is a universe out there where Squadron 42 turns out to be something special, and I do hope it's the one that we live in. Right, let's give away a ship and come back down to Earth. Goodness me. To win, make sure you're subscribed, come and join the Discord so I can contact you if you win, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on Squadron 42 and what we've seen. I'll pick my favourite comment, and that one will win the game package and ship.